This is part 2 of assignment 14 with Excel charts, and I'm picking up right where we left off before. We've already finished our first and second sheet, so now I'm going to click on sheet 3, and I'm going to click on sheet 3. I said I would, but apparently my mouse wasn't cooperating. Now I'm on sheet 3, and you lucky guys, I'm a math teacher, so now of course we have to do a math graph problem. And you might be able to use this in your math classes. Your math teachers are going to show you how to do a regression line on your calculators, and you'll be able to demonstrate how to do a regression line using an Excel spreadsheet. So I've started out here with a chart of XY ordered pairs. So when you first learned algebra, I'm sure you've all seen this is ordered pair x or 7 comma 18, the x coordinate and the y coordinate. So we're going to use a scatter plot, and then we're going to find the equation of the line that goes through these ordered pairs. And now I have to tell you that I haven't done this since last year. So I'm going to be looking around in the menus for the options, the same as you guys would. So I know I'm going to go to the Insert tab to look at my choices of charts and graphs. And I want to do a scatter plot. And I'm going to choose the not to connect the points. So I'm going to do this choice, and immediately I get my scatter plot. And I can do a lot of different options here, and they're all very easy to do. To do this on your graphing calculator takes quite a few more steps. So the first thing that I think I would do here is, because it's so obvious right now under the Design tab of my chart tools. Again, remember, if the chart tools don't appear, it's because your cursor is in a cell, not in the chart. So as soon as you click inside the chart, then your chart tool tabs will appear. So I'm going to make those points even larger. So I like the color they're in, but I'm going to choose to have them be larger. Notice you could do a black background with these blue dots. So I'm going to choose to keep a white background with those blue diamonds, and each of these is our ordered pairs. And I'm going to click on one of them. I'm going to right click on one of them, and I'm going to add data labels. I'm sure that that is probably up in the data table tab, but right clicking on it is what I remember. It's quite easy to do, so I know that each of the right click options is somewhere in a menu as well. Okay, so I right clicked on any one of those scatter points, and I'm going to choose Add Data Labels, and I hovered a little too long, and notice that it only gave me the Y coordinate. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to format the data labels. And here's a dialog box. So notice that it's only telling me the Y coordinate. Well, as a math teacher, wouldn't we want the ordered pair as an XY ordered pair? So then we can reset. And it asks what separator you want, and I want a comma, not a semicolon. So we put commas between our XY ordered pairs, and we got choices of how we want to center our labels, but this looks good. So it already reset my label text, so I don't really have to click that. I can just hit close. So I wish it put those in parentheses so they looked like math teachers do XY ordered pairs, but I think we can figure that out for ourselves. This Y coordinate is a little deceptive here, so I could extend this chart title. I guess I need to put some text in there. So let's do line of best fit. That's another name for a regression line. So now what we want to do is find the equation of the line that most closely fits our data points. So I'm going to change that title to whatever color we want here. That's kind of an ugly color. And you can, of course, Remember, you can go to your page layout and change to different colors later if you don't like the choices we've got here. All right, so next what we're interested in, so if we did an experiment and we measured some values, these could be time and temperatures if you're heating up an object, or it could be the number of days and how many inches tall a plant is in a biology class. If you're measuring the growth of a plant, or biologists like to measure the amount of mold in a culture at a certain number of times. So your x coordinate could be time, your y coordinate could be any value. So you've done an experiment, you measured your xy ordered pairs, and now you look at the graph and say, well, this looks like we've got a pretty steady increase. It's not perfect, because when you collect data from a real world experiment, of course it's not going to line up exactly perfectly, but this looks very close, and I think the line of best fit is where I'm moving my mouse. But we're going to let Excel find the line of best fit for us. So I know that the choice is going to be in just one of these three Chart Tools menus. So even if you forget, you don't have too many places to look, and it is in the design of the chart, and this helps me to remember. It has nice visual pictures of the choices, and do you see in this button that I can see that there's a line drawn and there's all these points scattered around? So right now we have a scatter plot without the line of best fit. So I'm going to go to this pull down menu, and I'm not just going to choose to draw the line as in this layout 3. I see my function notation here. Remember, this FX symbol is for formulas and functions. So I want to find this choice. It's going to draw the line, and it's going to tell me the formula for the line. So how easy is this? When I click on this option, right here is my text box. I'm going to just drag that up to the white space here so we can see it a little better. And as long as I did that, let's actually make it larger. And that's the answer that any mathematician would be looking for. If you do an experiment, you want to find the equation of the line. So those of you who have already had enough algebra, you know that this is a y equals mx plus b equation. So this is our y-intercept, and 2.437 is the slope. So we're going to rise 2.4 units for every 1 unit that we run horizontally. You might not know about this r-squared value. It's called the correlation coefficient, and the closer it is to 1, the better fit our line is. So the fact that this is 0.95 tells us that our trend was very close. Our scatter points almost fit perfectly on that line. So the computer chose the place where we have the least amount of error from each of these scatter points to the line. Okay, I would like to see that line better, so I'm going to try and get my mouse on that line and then right click. And I didn't quite get it. Let's see if I can get to that grid line. Change the chart type format, the trend line. Maybe I did have it and didn't see it at the bottom. Right click on the line, format the trend line, and what I'm looking for, I don't care about, we did a line, by the way. We could do exponential, logarithmic. These are all types of curves that you're going to study in higher level math classes. But linear equations are where we start in algebra. Okay, so I'm not worried about choosing those, but I am looking for line color over here. So I'm going to make this a solid line, and then when I choose solid line, I get some choices here. So, you know, I told you I was going to keep picking red, and I can make it, I don't want transparency. I want it to be solid over the top. And then line style, I think I want that to be a thicker line. So I can just click here and type whatever I want, 4 points, or I can use the up-down arrows to make it a nice thick line. So 5 might be a little too much, let's leave that at 4 point. And you can do different types of lines with arrows at the end of them. So that's what these end types are, is do you want to put arrows on the ends of your line or not? All right, and then we'll click close when you get that the way you want it to be, okay? So I guess I only put an arrow on one end of the line, but there's our equation of this line of best fit. I shouldn't leave this title, axis title, I should say that this is the y-axis, and that's all I need to type is y. Doesn't fit very well there, and I can't grab the corner. So we'll see if we click off. Maybe I typed the letter V. Maybe that's why. Let's see if I type the letter Y. And here this is my x-axis. Okay, and if they stood for something in a particular experiment, so for example, x could be measured as time in hours, and my y-axis could be measured as mass of something in grams. So it might be something we've measured in a biology lab experiment. Okay, so we did quite a bit there. I didn't rename my sheet 3, so that's maybe the last thing to do. Right click on sheet 3, choose rename, and we're going to call this regression line. So you got a head start on something you might do in an Algebra 2 class. And now I'm going to move this below, and I think I'm happy with my graphs. By the way, let's go to page layout and remind you that you could change the colors even after you've made the graph, and it'll just keep updating your color choices. So you can choose whatever you want there. All right, and then we're going to go to print, and we'll see our print preview. And this is coming up a little differently because I had already done a sample like this as I was setting up your file. So notice here it says narrow margin, where when you come into it, it'll say normal margin. But the default is portrait orientation. You're going to again change to the Door Lab printer, which doesn't happen to be one of the choices where I am right now, but it will be when you're in the lab. I do not want to print just one page. I want to print my entire workbook, or I could just print pages 1 and 2. I do want portrait orientation. That's why I put my chart below the table of data. And if it doesn't quite fit, that's what happened to me the last time I printed. It was really close. It almost fit. So all I did was went to the margins choice and chose to make the margins narrower. But this time that chart happens to fit just fine, so I could leave normal margins. Before we print, don't waste paper here, before we print, let's click in the scroll bar and let's look at page 2. So there's our population graph, and it also fits perfectly fine. And click again in the scroll bar to see if we're okay on page 3. What if it wasn't okay? If it wasn't okay, then hit the escape key and go back. All right. I'm going to come back to sheet number 3. Let's actually go to sheet number 1, test scores. And let me show you a problem that might happen, because you might have your size or your chart. Let me actually resize it so that it might not fit completely on the page. And if I have the chart selected, now let me go to File, Print, and see what happens. So look at what happens when I had the chart selected. It thought that was the only thing I wanted to do, so it defaulted to say you must want to print the chart that you have selected. And no, I actually want to print the whole workbook, and you'll see that the choices are grayed out. So then you would be at an impasse. You can't solve this problem, so you'd have to hit escape and say, I better go fix the problem. So escape, get back to your spreadsheet, and then you'll realize the trouble is you've got the graph selected right now. So let me click in a cell outside of the graph. And now let's try again and go to File, Print, and let's look at the print preview. And now you can see that we've got a little problem here that the entire chart isn't fitting on the page. So when we go to the next page, there's the completion of chart 1. So we certainly don't want to have that chart divided over 2 pages. So let's escape again. So again, be careful to look at your print preview before you waste paper. Make sure you've double checked the print preview and you like how it looks. And after you do the print preview, then you'll have an idea of whether your chart fits on the page. So I think that will do. If you can err on the side of making it a little smaller. Remember again that you can stretch these graphs more vertically. We have a lot of vertical space, but we need to make sure horizontally that it fits on our page. We could, so now I'm going back to print. And I did exactly what I told you not to do. I have the chart still selected, so I had to escape and come back and click somewhere else. So teaching by bad example. And now I'm going to go to print one more time. And print preview, I think that page looks good. And now, how come I don't have a scroll bar? Because it thinks I only want to print the active sheet. My cursor is on sheet 1, so that's what it means by active sheet. So I'm going to choose this pull down and print the entire workbook. And now we get a scroll bar. So there's our page 1. And then I would click down. Page 2 looks like it would be nice. And I'd click down. Page 3 looks like it would be nice. So I have them all formatted the way I want. The one thing I could recommend to you guys before you print these, you're going to print them and you're going to send them to me. Again, go back to each of your sheets and insert your name somewhere next to your table so you don't have to handwrite your name in them. So you're going to print a hard copy and you're going to email me your file as well.